Greetings and welcome to Sacred Ground. I want to just check a couple things here. I think we're okay. There we go. Welcome. Welcome to our Mindful Bible Study. I am Parson Michael, and you're tuned in to Fresh Green Blessings, reading the Judeo-Christian Bible through a Buddhist lens with Mother Earth eyes. And, oh my goodness, there's my singing bowl. Sacred Ground Community Church and Sangha, as you may know, we're a melding of different traditions, a confluence of the beneficial teachings of Buddhism, Christianity, and earth-centered spirituality, coming together as one and supporting each other. And this is our Bible study program. In this series, we've been studying some of the Psalms and the Gospel of Mark. And today we'll focus on Psalm 131 and Mark chapter 9. And if you are tuning in live on YouTube, you're welcome. I don't know if it's the chat or the comment where you could make some comments. You're welcome to do that. I will try to catch it. Ollie may be able to catch some of it as well. I'll try to acknowledge, but if I fail to acknowledge, please show us a little grace on that. I will. Let me just shift this over a little bit so that hopefully I'll see the chats, because sometimes I do miss things. And we do invite you to take part in the chats because we'd like it to be more dialogical so that there's more going back and forth and not just me speaking. So with all that, welcome. I'm going to take a sip of my tea here. And if you tune in regularly, or if you've tuned in before, you know that we almost always begin with a little bit of presence, a little bit of mindfulness. Today is no exception. I will invite the bell to sound, and I invite myself, I invite you, if you wish, into presence, into mindfulness, into being right here, right now, enjoying the sound of this bell. I'll invite the bell to sound one more time. One of the things that I notice is how it sounds a little different almost every time that I invite it to sound. I'm hitting the bell differently, a different place on the bowl, a different strength of the swing of my hand, and maybe sometimes if we're especially outside, the difference in temperature. It just is another kind of way of inviting me to remember that every moment has its own uniqueness. So I'm now going to invite you into a place of meditation and mindful breathing. So I just invite you into your body, into awareness of your body, and start to notice your breath. You might want to close your eyes as I am, or you might want to have your eyes open in kind of a downward gaze, picking a spot a couple of feet in front of yourself on the floor. Notice your hands where you have them placed. Be aware of your posture. Nothing forced, just awareness. And I'll have words for the in-breath and the out-breath here. And I invite you, if possible, to breathe through your nose. Breathing in and out. In and out. Breathing deeply and slowly. Deep on the in-breath. Slow on the out-breath. Aware, relaxed. And just let those muscles loosen, let gravity do its work. Aware, relaxed. Calming as we breathe in. Loving as we breathe out. Calming. Loving. Breathing in with a smile. Breathing out with ease. And here we might bring some ease to any tense parts of ourselves. In the smile. Out ease. In smile. Out release. Smile. Release. Breathing in peace. Breathing out joy. Peace. Joy. Breathing in aware of this present moment. Breathing out, and this is a wonderful moment. Present moment. Wonderful moment. Breathing in, solid posture. Breathing out, stable body. In, solid posture. Out, stable body. I'm sure you hear the train there. Breathing in, solid posture. Breathing out, stable mind. In, solid posture. Out, stable mind. And we'll just take a couple more in and out breaths on our own. Actually, there's two trains. I can see, I'm sitting right by our bay window. There's one going one way, one going the other. And you might say, oh gosh, what a bummer, it interrupts his meditation. No, we live in a world where there's all this extraneous noise. Some of it's helpful, some of it's problematic, but it's here. And so part of our work is, how do we come to presence with all the freneticism around us? So that's basically just the practice. And if you enjoy this meditation, and I do hope you enjoy it, you might want to find, whether you use the words that I just used, you can find so many things online. You could find so many of our past practices, whether it's our past Bible studies or our Sunday morning programs. You could find all kinds of folks online talking about meditation. You can look in a Thich Nhat Hanh book and you're going to find different words. And I invite you to either find words that others have come up with that are befitting for you, or come up with your own. And just have a few phrases that you learn by heart and that you can utilize at any time. So, you're on the freeway and there's an accident and traffic comes to a complete halt. And of course, a lot of us white knuckle it. How about if we take that time and we, in, out, deep, slow, aware, relax, calming, loving, smile, ease, smile, release, right? So we can choose that. And I also, and again, this is all invitational. And as I would say, dudette, I'm not that evolved being or anything, but I do find this stuff helpful for myself. And so I have a number of these practices that I have kind of put to memory. Some I've created, some I found from Thich Nhat Hanh or others. Oftentimes when I go to sleep at night, as I'm going to sleep, I'll use that practice to just put me in a state of relaxation. I read fairly recently about how, when we wake up in the morning, we tend to, we want to stretch immediately. One of the reasons for that is because we tend to tighten up in the night. You would think, well, sleep, it's relaxing, but oftentimes we tighten up, we squeeze up. And so if we can bring a little more ease to when we go to sleep, it might be helpful. And for me, I don't tend to think of mindfulness or meditation as, it can help me to do this, although that's all true. It is an end unto itself. I'm happier because I meditate. I enjoy the process. And I know that my reading of the sacred text is going to be different than it would otherwise have been. And I would argue, at least for myself, it's going to be richer. There's going to be more possibility. There's going to be, to put it in kind of Judeo-Christian language, more opportunities for kind of God's voice to come into me. And certainly not a naivete that doesn't allow me to be critical, that my ability to critique and to push against the text is strong as ever, if not stronger, through this. So I toss that out for whatever value it may have. We're going to begin today with Psalm 131, and we've been going through a psalm every week We had Psalm 130 last week, and this is a fairly short one. And I'll read it with mindfulness, with prayerfulness, with slowness. And since this is one of the short ones, I'll read the whole thing. This is the King James Version. And I'll begin with the bell. Again, just to bring myself even a little more towards center. And Reverend Howard Thurman, he speaks of this inner center. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? Centering oneself. And as I said earlier in the chat, you're welcome to let us know that you're here, offer any comments as we go along. Comments supporting what I say, comments offering other perspectives, pushing back, all of it. The bell, and then the King James Version of Psalm 131. Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. Neither do I exercise myself in great matters, or in things too high for me. Surely I have behaved and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as a weaned child. Let Israel hope in the Lord from henceforth and forever. The New Revised Standard Version translation. Psalm 131, Song of Quiet Trust, a song of ascents of David. O Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child with its mother. My soul is like the weaned child that is with me. O Israel, hope in the Lord. From this time on and forevermore. We'll just have a moment of silence. And I'm going to invite myself to go into what is known in Christian tradition as Lectio Divinae, a sacred reading, slow, prayerful, allowing myself to repeat certain verses, allowing myself to extemporaneously pray, allowing the text to speak to me, allowing myself to prayerfully, poetically engage with the words on the page. And I think to assist me again, I'll invite the bell to sound. And I may draw from both of these translations. We'll see how it plays out. Psalm 131. My heart not lifted, my eyes not raised too high. Not occupied with things too great, too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul. Calmed and quieted my soul. My soul is no longer agitated. In this moment, my soul screams not. My soul cries not. My soul cheers not. No. Dear Lord, in this moment, calm, in this moment, quietude. Oh Lord, there is so much noise, so much in this world that causes pain, so much that fosters hate and anger and aggression. So much that puts on us the clothing of fear and anxiety. And there is so much within me, so much within us, thoughts and feelings and emotions and ideas, rambling about, crying, screaming to be heard, fighting to be voiced. But what may happen if I elevate not my eyes, elevate not my ego, but uplift calmness. Nurture quietness. What might I hear? The bird song? the whisper of the wind in the pine, the sadness in my friend's voice, the joy in the spring soil, the footsteps of the child and the cat and the puppy, the creak of the old wooden floor, the sound of my breath flowing in and out. If I am calm and quiet in my soul, and what else may I sense? The presence of the ancestors, the hidden hopes of the cynical young, the despair of others, the voice of you, O Lord. Which is inclusive of all these voices. Down to the squirrel chewing the nut, the cricket, the falling feather, Lord, Great Spirit, perhaps a great fear is calmness and quietness. What might we find there? The weaned child with its mother, they are distinct, separate, yet they are together, comforting each other. Calm, quiet, nurture. Oh, great sacred, we have created a very, very, very noisy world. It is far noisier than the world that the psalmist lived within. As we consider what we value, as we decide what our values are, help us to consider calmness, quietude, not as weaknesses, but as strengths. Not as elements that matter little, but as values to uphold. Peace and amen and amen. As per Fresh Green Blessings tradition, before going into our New Testament reading, we'll take a few minutes for a little mindful movement, a little yogic possibility of uniting mind, body, and spirit. First the bell, and then I'll invite you. And again, as per always, everything is an invite. So if you'd like to join me, I'm going to be standing up back here, or maybe I'll be kneeling down. I'm not sure how it's going to play out today, but I invite you into movement. And I invite you to calmly enjoy the sound of this bell. All right, I'll adjust this a little bit here. Move my chair to the side. I think I'll slip off my sandals. And I invite you to stand wherever you are, if you're able, with your feet about shoulder length apart. I invite you to slowly, quietly raise your arms to shoulder height. Maybe bringing them up only on the in-breath. Let's try that. And then just let them pause wherever they are on the out-breath till they get sort of parallel with the ground. Nice deep breaths. And now let's bring them together. And now I invite you to bring the left ear toward the left shoulder. Nice little stretch. And then head back. Right ear to right shoulder. And then head forward. Nice stretch in the back of the neck. Ear toward the left shoulder. Don't raise your shoulders up, or try not to. And then just a little bit back. Gentle, gentle, gentle. And then right ear to right shoulder. I invite you to put your hands down at your side. This is the pose called Tadasana. And to help you remember, you go, ta-da! This is it. And I invite you to bend your knees and raise your hands up. Look up at your hands, wiggle your fingers. And while you're at it, don't go up tiptoe, but lift your toes up off the ground and wiggle your toes a little bit as well. And back down. And up. Breathing in. And back down. And you do this with a little knee bend. You can start to bring those arms back further. And up. And down. And imagine you're moving the air around you. Up. Maybe like you have a big beach ball overhead. And down. Up. And down. Welcome to smile. Up. And down. And invite you to bring your hands onto your hips. And just a little turn to the right. And hold it there. Breathing in and out. And back to center. Breathing out. And breathing in. A little turn to the left. And breathing out. Nice little stretch to the back there. Try to keep your hips facing the front, just bending that upper torso. And then back to the front. Now I'm going to invite you, I'm going to turn my second mat here a little bit. I'm going to invite you, a lot of times there'll be invitations for you to bend all the way down, sort of touch your toes. Well, if you're an older person like myself, I'm in my early 60s, sometimes that's not so good for the lower back because it sort of crunches the spine down there. So let's just do a halfway bend. So we're going to bend forward. And if you need it, be light in the knees. You don't have to be super stiff in the knees. But you might start to feel in your hamstrings and your calves a little bit of a stretch there. And if you want, you can have your arms out by your side, airplane arms. And try to have some nice space between your between your ears and your shoulders. And just a nice little stretch there. And take a couple of nice deep breaths. And let's wiggle those toes again. Whenever you start to feel that tightness, just wiggle those toes. That's a great corrective for when we start to get tight in our feet. And then let's go from here. Let's go up. And down prayer position at the heart. And let's go bend one more time. That halfway bend. Airplane arms. And breathe in and out. And just imagine that energy flowing beyond your head, beyond the tailbone, flowing out in both directions, through the tips of your fingers and your thumbs, and then back up. Breathe in. Hands at the heart, breathe out. And one last time. Down, breathing in. Imagine that energy flowing all through you, all through your legs, all out of your fingers, out of the top of your head, out of your tailbone. And with a bend of the knees, we go up and back at the heart. And if you like, a nice little smile, space between those ears and those shoulders, and a nice little breathe in and then out through the mouth. In, out through the mouth. And one last time. In. Excellent. You may want to touch the third eye here on the forehead above the two eyes, and a nice little bow. And we'll come back and sit down. I am such a fan of the yoga. I try to do yoga practice almost every day. And I can say this. I've been doing this since sometime in COVID, so I should know exactly how long it's been, but I think it's 3 years. Is it 3 years, 4 years? But it's been a while. And as a person who's in their early 60s, my goodness, this has made such a difference in my life. So, and something that's not often emphasized in our secular world is that yoga is a spiritual practice, right? It comes from Hindu tradition, and it is mind, breath, body, spirit, union, right? Uniting as one. And one of the reasons I bring it into our Bible study, our mindful Bible study, is I do that little bit of movement. I mean, I don't know about anyone out there, but I can tell you, I'm just a little fresher. I'm a little bit ready, yeah, let's open up. Let's look at Mark now. I mean, that's a little, I felt wonderful at the end after we did the Lectio Divina with the Psalm, but I'm kind of a little bit drained. But now I've been energized again. And again, whatever that might be for you, whether it's yoga or whether it's getting out and, going for a walk with a friend or walking the dog or working in the garden or putting on some of your favorite music, we need, and I'm willing to use the word need here, we need to find these ways that feed our spirits, feed our souls, feed our minds and hearts, feed our bodies. All of this is one. It's all interconnected. And so just encourage you to figure out what those might be for yourself. What are healthy, wholesome ways that can help support you. So we are going to move into the New Testament, Mark chapter 9. Oh, I'm going to mention one thing too. I've mentioned this Catholic priest before, Anthony DeMello, and that Lectio Divina, my practice of it is coming from Father Anthony DeMello's book, Sadhana, A Way to God. And he was an Indian man living in India, and he has practices that really beautiful meditative practices blending East and West. So lovely stuff. Now let's go to Mark chapter 9, and we're going to talk today about what's known as the Transfiguration. And this is probably going to be, if you don't know that word, this will probably be familiar to many, almost most of you if you're familiar with Christian tradition. And this is found in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, different forms of this story. And I will get a drink of my water, invite the bell to sound, and go ahead and we'll read. And again, thank you so much for being here. As far as I can tell, I don't know if we have any comments in the chat. You are always welcome to comment. And if you want to just sit back and watch too, that's of course fine. I'll be reading 3 versions of this, 3 translations. The New Revised Standard Version, the King James. Those of you who know me know I'm a big fan. While I'm troubled sometimes by the, of course, the patriarchal language of that, but the richness of that King James is just the poetic kind of artistry of it. It really has some openness to it, while it simultaneously, of course, has the limits of how we think in terms of gender today. And then we'll also have, along with King James and New Revised Standard, the translation by Sarah Rudin, her recent translation of the Gospels. So today we're going to be reading Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 14. And as I've often said, don't think too hard about these words. sit back and listen. You might have reactions. If you come from a lot of work or a lot of time in Christian tradition, you've heard these stories. You've heard perhaps specific meanings to these stories, and the invitation is to always allow for, at least here at Fresh Green Blessings, the invitation is to always allow for new possibilities, other layers, different meanings. That doesn't negate or push against any previous meanings, but just allowing for the vastness. We're dealing with the sacred. We're dealing with God. We're dealing with spirit. It is always, in my estimation, an invitation towards vastness, not towards constriction. So. Chapter 9, verses 2 through 14. The bell. And again, thanks so much for, whether you're watching the recording or watching us live, thanks so much for being with us on this. One more time with the bell. Invitation to presence. And calmness. Six days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice. "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, he ordered them to tell no one about what they had seen until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what this rising from the dead could mean. Then they asked him, "Why do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" He said to them, "Elijah is indeed coming first to restore all things. How then is it written about the Son of Man, that he is to go through many sufferings and be treated with contempt? But I tell you that Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased, as it is written about him." When they came to the disciples, they saw a great crowd around them, and some scribes arguing with them. Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 14, the King James Version. And after 6 days, Jesus taketh with him Peter and James and John, and leadeth them up into an high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. And his raiment became shining, exceeding white as snow, so as no fuller on earth can white them. And there appeared unto them Elias with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter answered and said to Jesus, Master, it is good for us to be here. And let us make 3 tabernacles, one for thee, and one for Moses, and one for Elias. For he wist not what to say, for they were sore afraid. And there was a cloud that overshadowed them. And a voice came out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son. Hear him. And suddenly, when they had looked round about, they saw no man any more, save Jesus only with themselves. And as they came down from the mountain, he charged them that they should tell no man what things they had seen, till the Son of Man were risen from the dead. And they kept that saying with themselves, questioning one with another what the rising from the dead should mean. And they asked him, saying, Why say the scribes that Elias must first come? And he answered and told them, Elias verily cometh first, and restoreth all things. And how it is written of the Son of Man that he must suffer many things, and be set at naught. But I say unto you, that Elias is indeed come, and they have done unto him whatsoever they listed, as it is written of him. And when he came to his disciples, he saw a great multitude about them, and the scribes questioning with them. And the same reading from Mark with the New Translation by Sarah Rudin. Then after 6 days, Aesos took Petros, Jacobus, and Ioannes along with him, and brought them up unto a high mountain privately, only them. And his form changed before their eyes, and his clothes turned a glistening, glaring white, to a degree no laundryman on the earth could whiten them. And Elias, along with Moses, was seen by them, and they were talking with Aesos. Now Petros responded by saying to Aesos, Rabbi, it's good that we're here. So let's make 3 shelters, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elias. He didn't in fact know how he should respond, since he and the others were terrified. Then a cloud came and overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud. This is my Son, the beloved. Listen to him. And the next moment, when they looked around, they no longer saw anyone with them except Iesus, him alone. And when they came down from the mountain, he ordered them not to describe to anyone what they had seen, until the Son of Mankind was awakened from among the dead. And they kept what he said to themselves, only arguing over what being awakened from among the dead meant. Then they questioned him, saying, "Why do the scholars say it's necessary for Elias to come first?" And he said to them, "Elias coming first re-establishes everything. Then why has it been written that the Son of Mankind will endure many things and be treated as if he were nothing? But I say to you that Elias too has come, and they did to him all that they wanted to, as it's been written about him." And when they came back to the other students, they saw a large crowd around them and scholars arguing with them. You'll hear the train, but we'll have a few moments of silence to allow these readings in 3 translations to sit with us. If you have any thoughts on this story of the Transfiguration in Mark, you're welcome to share them. And I'll start to share a few of my own thoughts as well. The Transfiguration is certainly a famous story within the Gospels, a well-known one. And I'm also struck by the richness, the possibilities in just these 12 verses. We have the 12, and we might start by saying, well, why Peter, James, and John? Why did these 3 get to go up the mountain? The other 9 are back arguing with the scribes. Why did these 3 get to go up? Well, there's lots of room for thought right there. I spoke, I can't remember if this was one of the Sunday services that was online or not, but I spoke sometime earlier, I think it was this year, it might have been in the fall of 2024, where I spoke about this line from Peter. Teacher, Rabbi, Jesus, it is good for us to be here. I have taken that as a mantra. To take moments of presence and just take that Peter line. Lord, it's good to be here. Right now, talking with you about these sacred texts, talking in ways that, for whatever reasons, maybe people don't usually talk about them. Wow, it's good to be here. It's good to be present doing this. It's simply lovely. Present moment, wonderful moment. And what Peter does in his very human way is immediately he next says, let's make 3 tents, 3 tabernacles, 3 dwellings here to honor you and Moses and Elijah. He moves into this realm of functionalism, really, of just, instead of just being in the experience of like, okay, here's what we have to do now. Completely unnecessary. In Mark, there's not even any comment in terms of that, just other than he's terrified, doesn't know what he's saying. So how often can we not just allow for that presence? But we have to come in and like, okay, now here's what we have to do, or here we have to keep doing this so this will happen. Instead of just the first part. Lord, it's good to be here. That has become a mantra that I use regularly. We have the voice in the cloud. This is a very strong Old Testament image. We're going to find, we will find that that's a common image in Exodus, where we have the Ark of the Covenant, and we have the God speaking out of the cloud. But here we have it in the New Testament. Here we have it in the Gospel of Mark. And this is my beloved Son. Listen to him. I want to talk for a moment about Christology. And Christology is one of those 50-cent words that those of us who went to seminary like to throw around. And basically it's like, who is this Christ? Who is this Jesus? And this voice from the cloud doesn't say much, right? It says, this is my beloved Son. I'll get the language of the other translations. My Son, the beloved. And let's see what the King James says. Beloved Son. Hear him. Even more terse. Instead of listen to him, just hear him. I want to note a couple of things. And this may push against, or it certainly pushes against some people's Christologies or understanding of Jesus, and certainly pushes up against a lot of Orthodox Christianity. It doesn't mean that those other things are wrong. I'm just going to say what we're not hearing. What we're not hearing from the voice in the cloud. We don't hear only. We hear beloved. Beloved Son. And I remind people quite often, Jesus doesn't have the prayer that says, here's how I want you to pray. Jesus is Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. The prayer begins, our Father. Yes, Jesus is Father, and your Father, and my Father. Our Father. That does not mean that we are not talking about the special status, or we should ignore the special status of this Jesus, this beloved Son. And he doesn't say, believe in him. He says, listen to him. Hear him. That's all he says. 2 or 3 words, hear him. Listen to him. Jesus Christ lived and died over 2,000 years ago. So I have to have some faith, or I do have some faith, that at least some of these words are pretty close, I hope, to what this Jesus was saying. And I can listen and contemplate and be moved and be challenged. And I can push against too. But listen with an openness of heart and spirit. Because I submit that a very, very, very small percentage of people are listening to the words of Jesus, the teachings, because they are quite challenging. Sometimes they're soothing, but oftentimes they're challenging. And this gets me to where, at least for myself, and again, I'm not here to dictate for anyone else, but for myself, I'm very aligned with people like Reverend Howard Thurman, who speak of not the religion about Jesus, but the religion of Jesus. And the religion of Jesus comes through in what he shares with us. And this voice of the Father, voice in the cloud, is saying, listen, listen, listen. And that's all it says. Listen. And maybe we can also hear, as I did my Lectio Divina with the psalm, maybe a little bit in the pain in our friend's voice, in the song of the bird, in the sound of the cricket, in the laughter of a child, in the mournful crying of a loved one. in all of those, maybe I should also be listening for the voice of Jesus. I like that as a, and again, this may not it may or may not be befitting for any of you, and I always want to recognize that. But I'm thinking, when I hear someone in pain, or I hear someone in joy, what would it be for me to say, there's the voice of Jesus? And I could even add on, and Lord, it's good to be here, compassionately listening. I love the richness of these stories, and I'm going to share one last thing today, and that is, I closed, well, actually, I'm going to share two more things. One is that coming of Elijah. That's found not in Luke, but in Matthew and Mark. And here again, we have this interesting idea in terms of rebirth and continuation and the ancestors. And these are references generally known and sometimes explicitly said in other places, references to John the Baptist as Elijah. And what does that mean? What is that connection? Is that, is there an element of reincarnation here in this tradition? Is it connection with the ancestors? Again, there's so much there to explore. And it's not about getting the right answer to that, but it's about wondering and being curious and humble. Let's go back to the psalm. Not having our eyes lifted up too much, but having that humility about what we don't know, what we don't understand. That I just mentioned briefly. And the last thing I wanted to say is I chose to stop this reading at verse 14. And I'll read that verse to you again. I'll read it in all three translations and then talk about it for a minute. Mark chapter 9, verse 14, in three translations. When they came to the disciples, they saw a great crowd around them and some scribes arguing with them. And when he came to his disciples, he saw a great multitude about them, and the scribes questioning with them. And when they came back to the other students, they saw a large crowd around them and scholars arguing with them. So this is going to be about a boy who's possessed, and the Jesus' students, his disciples, unable to heal the boy until Jesus comes. But the important point is, we go from this lofty, mystical, magical Moses and Elijah and these garments that are whiter than white, and this, how is this happening? This speaking with the ancestors and all of this, and a voice from the cloud. And then we're back to debating with scribes. I may be mispronouncing his name. There's an author, Mircea Eliade, and he talks about the sacred and the profane. And not profane like profanity, but profane like the everyday. And it's actually beautiful, I think, in this story, how we move from that sacred to the profane. Like, we can't just stay up there. And that, again, that speaks to Peter's, hey, let's build tabernacles up here. We'll stay up here in this lofty realm. No. We're called to the nitty-gritty stuff. There's lots of problems in the world. There's arguments being had. There's things people who need stood up for. People who need to be protected from harm. There's nitty-gritty stuff. And I think one of the things that's happening in this story is we're seeing that connection. And I'm thankful again for my interpreter's Bible that pointed that out. And in there, they mention a beautiful painting by Raphael. And if you look up later after this program, if you want, look up Raphael, the Transfiguration, and you'll see here's this lofty image, but down in the foreground, here's this debate. The both and of that. The secular and the sacred. We're not apart. It's not just about, oh, what do I do to get into heaven? It's about life here on earth. The kingdom of God is at hand. We are called to engage in this world. We are earth beings. We come from the clay, the ash. That's all part of us. We had a couple of weeks ago, the Palm Sunday, the stones themselves would start to sing if the people stopped singing the praises of Jesus as he entered Jerusalem. We are connected to this material world of rocks and trees and birds, of people struggling, people's pain, the suffering that we see on the news. Part of our work is to figure out how to integrate. Integrate and integrity have the same roots. How to bring together that mystical, magical, lofty with the profane, the everyday, the argument, the debate, the us versus themness which abounds around us. Thich Nhat Hanh was a great teacher at this. He spoke of it as engaged Buddhism. I sometimes speak of engaged Christianity. People like Dr. Martin Luther King were practitioners of it. How do we engage? not just staying up on some lofty mountain. The mountain is important, but so is the valley. I'll close today with a prayer. I'll invite the bell to sound first. And I thank you for being with us again today. And before I do the prayer, I think some people wonder, why do you do this, Michael? Like, who cares? Like, why are you going into the Bible this way? And this is weird. You're doing this whole Buddhist, Christian, Mother Earth. This is not what people do. This is people have Bible study who have this very strict understanding. And I think that's unfair. I think that's a stereotype. And at the same time, we are doing something quite different. And why? I will say for me, what I got today from Psalm 131, what I got today from Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 14, it comes with the meditation. It comes with the mindfulness. It comes as an interactive back and forth. My spirit, my body, my mind, our spirits, our bodies, our minds, interacting with these ancient texts. And if somebody was reading this in 1950, or if they're reading it in the year 2050, it's going to be different. The words will be the same on these pages, but they will bring to it differences, just as our ancestors did. Just as Moses did differently than Elijah, differently than Jesus. There's the sacred, the absolute, and then there's the mundane, the relative, the everyday. These texts, I believe, are inviting us into the seesaw, the dance, the twist and turn of that. If we can approach them, not naively, but not dismissively, with an openness. I'll invite the bell to sound. I invite you into a space of prayer and meditation. Lord, as Peter said, it's good to be here. As the psalmist invites, may we come to the table with calmness and quietude in our soul. Breathing in, calm, breathing out, quiet. Breathing in, calm, breathing out, quiet. Lord, it's good to be here. May we remember your invitation from the cloud in the Gospel of Mark. Listen to him. May we listen to him and listen for him in those who are voiceless, in those who are oppressed, in those who are suffering. In those who are facing violence, in those who are facing mental health issues, in those who are enveloped in fear, pain, anxiety. Help us to listen to him, listen for him. In sacred texts, in the words of writers like Reverend Howard Thurman and Thich Nhat Hanh, in the art of Raphael and so many others, help us to listen to him, listen for him. And in our sacred texts, in all the great religious traditions, and in particular in the Judeo-Christian tradition, in the Psalms, in the Gospels, and the writings of various leaders, listen to him, listen for him. And in nature, may we have calmness and quietude, calmness of mind and spirit and soul, quietude, slowing down our bodies, stopping our tongues, noticing our breath, to listen. And help us to integrate the work of the mountain with the work of the valley, the sacred with the profane, the relative with the absolute, the lofty with the seeming mundane. May we know all is sacred. It's hard for us to remember that. May we have the humility of the psalmist, not claiming to understand too much, not being too lofty, but approaching it all, approaching you always, with calmness and quietude, knowing that we are here to be vehicles of compassion, loving kindness, generosity, humility, steadfast love. Help us. Help us. Guide us. We give thanks. Peace and amen and amen and amen. So good to be with you again today. I hope, we at Sacred Ground hope that you find value in this. We welcome your comments later. We invite you to share this, to like it if you do. Share it with others who you think might enjoy or find value in it. And we'll look forward to being back next week, next Wednesday at 4, for a reading from Mark chapter 10 and Psalm 132. May we go into the valley with a bit of the magic of the mountain always with us.